Hello and welcome to my review of the Legio Custodes Custodian Venatari squad from Forge World. One of these sets will cost you £42 and consists of 3 Venatari with 2 weapon choice options each. Now this review is a long time coming, so thank you so much to everyone who has kept their patience going over these long months. I'm pretty sure the wait will be worth it. So as I said at the start, these 3 will set you back £42, which is, yeah, quite expensive for 3 models. It's not quite as expensive as the Aquilon Terminators, which are £51 for 3 models, but is still more expensive than the 5 Sagittarum Guard. But then again, that set comes with the 5 plastic Custodes. These are all resin, as you can see, hence why they're more expensive. Now I've equipped all of these with the Kinetic Destroyer pistols and the Tarsus bucklers. I will go through the rules for both 40K and Horus Heresy towards the end of the video, but for now let's just have a look at the detail of these up close. I haven't glued them onto their stands, kind of precariously balanced on there, but let's have a look at them. There's not particularly a shield captain as such in this unit, and usually Custodes are pretty decent and hench anyway, that they can fight as their own like little army. They don't need brothers in arms, they don't need a sergeant or anything like that. Yeah, there is a kind of command structure, I guess, but for the most part they fight independently. You'll often see one of them running away and fighting with a load of Grey Knights and Sisters of Silence. That's just one of them. They are one-man armies pretty much. So you've got them in these 3 poses, 2 similar leg poses with the right leg up and 1 with the left leg up. There's no plug and sockets for the head or the arms, so you're free to position them at any angle you wish. All of the wings or the jetpacks are the same, but the shoulder pauldrons, which is a bit of a shame you can't see them that well through here because they're covered with a wing, they are all unique to each one. And I've mirrored their shoulder pauldron with the tassets, which are, yeah, can be a bit of a pain to attach, but I've tried to match them where possible. The Archotech pistol and the Tarsus bucklers are all the same throughout these. It's just their arms are in slightly different positions. You get enough to make 3 with Tarsus bucklers and Kinetic Destroyers, or 3 with just the Venatari lances, which I hasten to add fall a little short in my expectations. Those lances are only a short 12-inch range, but they are assault 2, and they do have a nice strength 6, AP -2 and a damage 2, so the rest of the stat line does beat a Guardian Spear, but for half the range, which isn't that much of an issue because these Venatari can move double the range of normal Custodian Guard. I just felt that more bang for your buck, to use that, to coin that phrase. The Venatari with the Kinetic Destroyers and Tarsus bucklers gave you more of that, more value for your points and more damage potential. So hence why I've got 3 of them. I will definitely add to these, probably get another 3 equipped with the Kinetic Destroyers, and maybe get another 3 with the spears. However, if I'm going to do that, I will be getting some helmets separately, which you can buy the Sagittarum kind of upgrade set, which includes 5 helmets that look like these. And I think those heads and helmets may just fit in there, maybe. But yeah, it's still going to be quite a tight fit. But certainly none of the typical Custodian Guard helmets will be able to fit because of the big red plume at the back. I do think it's a bit of a missed opportunity from Forge World to model some really cool wedged helmets, like you know, that are more aerodynamic, maybe with some wings on the edge of them. Just as a suggestion, because helmet options always encourage collectors to buy multiple of the same set. If I'm going to buy another 3 Venatari and I stick to the parts provided, I'm going to have 3 that look exactly the same because they've all got exactly the same heads, and that's something that I'd kind of avoid. And I'm puzzled by Forge World with the omission of helmeted versions or helmeted heads for this unit, because where possible, for most of their other models, they do provide helmeted versions as well as helmetless versions. So that puzzled me a little bit. Anyway, moving on to this fine chap who's kind of got his buckler up, protecting himself, maybe protecting his helmetless head, his helmetless features. If you have a little look at the detail, the level of detail on these, it's just sublime. I didn't have any issues whatsoever. The only sort of slight issues you'd have is with these vents, these little winglet vents. They are extremely fragile when you're handling them. They're only glued on by a very small hinge. They are the most fragile part of the miniature. I really hope that you don't lose any, because you only get 6, and they're not going to look too bad if you do lose them, because you've still got these things here. And I've actually closed them on one of mine, just mainly to protect them more than anything. Yeah, they will definitely have a tendency over your life of moving these models about to, you know, fall off or get dislodged during transit. That and the helmetless heads are the biggest kind of turn-offs for me for this kit. But anyway, as you can see, the kinetic destroyer looking amazing. Loads of detail. I love how Forge World kind of semi-drill or mould the barrels out of most of their weapons. You know, everything from the turbo lasers to the bellicosa volcano cannons. They really do, where they can, mould out the barrels, so there's no drilling for you to have to do. It's brilliant. I mean, they've got to save you some time from somewhere with all the washing and scrubbing and things of the resin, and then the slippage removal and the sanding as well. You know, resin models definitely take up the most amount of sort of preparation time. Anyway, that's that Venatari. See if I can just plonk him on there. And then there's this guy over here, which, yeah, it's got his he's aiming down there. I'm going to try and glue them in a kind of action pose once they're sprayed and ready to be fully painted. But yeah, excellent little pose, this one. I wanted to have this Mohawk custodian aiming rather than just flying about. He's got that kind of tensed face going on. I don't know what's happening with the Tarsus buckler here, but yeah, interesting. And again, he's got the winglets sort of open, the vents, and this is where I put most of the Misericordias. I just slapped that one on the back. His tasset is probably a little bit too far back. It should be kind of over there, but that's sort of as close as I can get. And from that angle, you can't really sort of tell. But yeah, where I can, I put the Misericordias either on the back or on the side next to their tassets. Completely optional, you don't need to use them, but I have, because I wanted to use as many parts of these models as I could. So that's this other Venatari. So a new feature that I want to introduce to these reviews is a fiction corner. Now, as you may or may not be aware, I do read. I read a lot. I love the Warhammer 40,000 universe and the Horus Heresy universe. I think it's one of the most incredibly rich and diverse universes around. I much prefer it to, say, Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or any of the other big fiction universes. And as such, I do like to read. Now, these are just a couple of books that I would recommend you read if you are into Custodes at all, really. So if you want to read more about Custodes, how they function, read some backstory and familiarise yourself with some of the characters and things, these are the current books I'd recommend. So out of the Horus heresy, I forgot to put the first heretic on here, but I would recommend that one. Also The Master of Mankind by Aaron Dembski Bowden. That's a fantastic one. Now I won't spoil the stories of these books, but The Master of Mankind, well, it's got the Emperor on the front cover, so that gives you an idea. And yes, it does have Custodes in it. Also, Chris Raitt is a fantastic writer when it comes to fleshing out characters, and I've thoroughly enjoyed his books on the Emperor's Legion and the Regent's Shadow, which follow Valerian, who now has a miniature out, and a Leia, and a couple of other characters as well. So I've thoroughly enjoyed those. You've also got other novels by Chris Raitt. Getting a bit of a Chris Raitt collection going on. But you've got the Hollow Mountain here and the Carrion Throne. And then, of course, let's not forget Valdor. All about him and the Custodian Guard. And yeah, we do have a model for him too now. Excellent. So yeah, if you're interested in the slightest about reading more, reading up on your Custodes, these are the books sort of I'd recommend, along with the first Heretic. That's a little fiction corner part of my review. Okay then, back onto the models themselves. So you do get this little pamphlet instruction guide with your models. Very straightforward, easy to put together. You will put them together in an afternoon or so. Just be wary of any slippage areas, such as on the legs. I don't need to remind you to wear a mask or to sand the models outside. They're all the part numbers, fair few. It looks like there's 43 unique parts, but some there are duplicates, such as, you know, 3 Misericordias, 3 right wings, and so on. So just as a quick look, it looks like there's about 54 parts in total. So there you go, that's the little instruction booklet. The spare parts, of course, if you kit them out with the kinetic destroyers, are in here. And it is literally just the 3 spears and the corresponding arms that would slot onto the hands of the spears themselves. Unfortunately, each spear has 2 hands attached to it, so you can't, so there's no way of just having a Venatari hold a spear with 1 arm, which they seem to do a lot on the plastic models, which is a bit of a shame, but there we go. I would have liked to have seen a Venatari kind of thrusting a spear with just one arm. That would be amazing, but not with this set. Now, one thing to note is the lance itself has kind of got the kinetic destroyer kind of built in, but remember it's a shorter range weapon. And compared to the pistol itself, it is a bit smaller. Comparing it to a normal Custodian Guard spear, the blade is longer. There's a longer cutting edge length. Unfortunately, this one would be illegal to carry in the United Kingdom. But the ranged part of the spear itself is a fair bit smaller, probably half the size of the kind of bolter that you typically get on Guardian spears. So nice little comparison there between the weapons, but yeah, if you build them like this, you're going to have your 6 spare parts. And now this leads us quite nicely into the size comparisons, which is always my favourite part of these videos. I'll start off by comparing them to, yeah, their brethren. So here is a Custodian Guard. I'll just do it with him. Now, you can see they are pretty much the same size. It looks like they carry a little bit less bulk to them, because even though they've got exactly the same pauldrons and sort of chest plate, they don't have the helmet, they don't have the leg armour, or the rest of the sealed arm armour, if that makes sense. They still have some like leather vambraces and gauntlets, but still, typically with the Custodes, you've got the leather over the auramite plate anyway. So that's where you're getting this downgrade of a save. I was quite shocked when I first saw it that these have got the same save as a Space Marine rather than your typical 2+ save, but it kind of makes sense. They have I'd say half the armour. All their 4 limbs, with the exception of the shoulder pauldrons, let's just forget that they don't wear helmets either. It's typically they're getting their armour from bits and pieces on their legs and arms and the chest piece. That's pretty much it. Compared to a normal custodian guard, I don't see how you can possibly defend the position that the Venatari can have the same save as these and Terminators at a 2+. Anyway, I was quite shocked because they are one of the only units for Custodian Guard that have a 3+ save, but the Tarsus Buckler does negate that in a way, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So that's next to a normal Custodian Guard. Next to a Sagittarum, similar, and these are the helmets I've been talking about. I'm just wary of where that tip is compared to the Eagle. And I do like the Eagle. I do like the aesthetic of this Eagle with its wings out, carrying the Venatari up and away. That's why I think an Eagle type of helmet thing, wedge helmet, would have looked amazing. Compared to very, very thick boys, these Aquilian Terminators, absolutely amazing. These things, huge, very bulky, but so powerful. And then I just thought I'd do a comparison with Valdor, because he's about at the moment, and yeah, Valdor's a bit bigger, definitely thicker, closest you'll get to a Primarch, but still a kind of human, if that even makes sense anymore. Compared to other models, I don't have any Assault Marines around, but I do have a Gemini Superior, and it gives you an idea of just how big the Venatari are compared to kind of other jump pack units in armies. So, and then I always like to do my comparison with a Space Marine, which is really dwarfed, and then a Primaris, which similar sort of size, but Custodian Guard is still a bit bigger. Next to other sort of 40k miniatures, so I've got the Dawn Eagle jet bike here, similar sort of size there, and you'd have these milling about these anyway, I would have thought, as backup. These guys have got the power and the speed of the jet bikes with the ranged weaponry, but they've also got the melee, which, unless you have the Venatari with the lances, they are lacking a little bit, but yeah, more on that later. Compared to another Agamatus jet bike, massive jet bike here. I want to get some more of these. These are so cool, but again, just gives you an idea of the size. And finally, one last comparison is just with the largest dreadnought, the Telemon Dreadnought. So can you believe it? Look how big this Telemon Dreadnought is compared to these Venatari. They all work really well together though. They share so many aesthetics and similarities that they look stunning with each other. Okay, I think that's all the size comparisons I can muster. So what I'll do now is just go through all of the rules. We'll kick off with the Horus Heresy rules. So you'll be able to find the rules for these Venatari on Forge World's website for free. Both the Horus Heresy rules and the 40k data sheets are both there. Unfortunately, this unit didn't make the cut for book 7. They came out quite a while afterwards, but I'm in no doubt they'll appear in probably book 9 or 10 or something like that, as like a little extra, an amendum to the Custodes rules for Horus Heresy. Anyway, let's go through the Horus Heresy rules first of all. So the squad will set you back 210 points. Their stat line reads weapon skill and ballistic skill 5, strength 5, toughness 5, 2 wounds, initiative 5, 2 attacks, leadership 9 and a save of 3+. The squad contains 3 Custodian Venatari, but it may include up to 7 additional Custodian Venatari at 65 points each. Any Custodian Venatari may replace their Tarsus Buckler and Archaeotech Kinetic Destroyer for a Venatari Lance for 10 points, and the entire Custodian Venatari squad may be equipped with Melter Bombs for +5 points each. Their Wargear, they have the Custodian Jump Harness, a Tarsus Buckler and Archaeotech Kinetic Destroyer, Plasma and Crack Grenades, Refractor Field. Special rules: Legio Custodes, Crusader, Bulky, Move Through Cover, Fleet, Auramite, Pinions. Custodian Venatari squad may be chosen as a fast attack choice for the Talons of the Emperor army list found in the Horus Heresy Book 7 Inferno. So, their Wargear then. The Custodian Jump Harness, it provides a 3+ armor save and the Auramite Pinion special rule. So, that leads on to the pinions themselves. A model with this special rule has an invulnerable save of 4+ when locked in close combat. It's quite decent, so they've got a 3+ normal, but they do make up for that with the 4+ invulnerable. Now their weapons, the Architect Kinetic Destroyer is a range 12-inch, strength 7, AP3 pistol, mastercrafted and fan burst. So it's got this lovely little ability called fan burst, where if you roll a 6 to hit, the bearer may make an extra shooting attack with this weapon, up to a maximum of 6 rolls to hit. That's amazing. So you could get a 6, and then you could get another 6, and so on and so on. Quite nice. The Tarsus Buckler then, it's a melee weapon, it's a strength +1, so now they've got a strength of 6, AP3, melee, energy nullifier. So again, that's really good against Space Marine equivalents. The energy nullifier, the AP value of any attack made against a model bearing Wargear with the energy nullifier rule is reduced for 1. For example, the attacks of a power sword striking a model equipped with a Tarsus Buckler are resolved at AP4 instead of AP3. Now that's a little bit different to the Venatari. That's a little bit different to the 40k rules. We'll go on to that in a moment. Now you can equip them with the Venatari Lance, which is a power blade. It's the strength of the user, or it's +1, or it's AP3 or AP2. Now you use the second profile if the model is charged. The type is melee, lightning blows, two-handed and specialist weapon, and it contains the Architect Repeater, which is a 12-inch, strength 7 AP3, assault 2 mastercrafted weapon. So that's very nice, and as usual, it would seem that the rules for the Horus heresy are better with the 7th edition rules, and they're more potent, and you find that across a lot of the Forge World models. Technology was just superior back then, at the end of the Crusade. So moving back to the rules, and we'll go through the 40k data sheet then. Now they are a fast attack choice, as before. They're a power points cost of an 8, or a points cost of 40, with the Kinetic Destroyers costing 10, and the Tarsus Bucklers costing 8. So you can add another 18 points to that, so they become 58 points per model. If you want the Venatari Lance, then that's 14 points, so they're a bit cheaper at 54 points. Misericordias are not free, you're going to have to pay for them if you want to equip them, and they're 4 points each. So that bumps up each one of my models to a whopping 62 points per model, which is getting very expensive now. So their stat line in 8th edition reads movement of 12 inches, weapon skill and ballistic skill both 2+, strength 5, toughness 5, 3 wounds, 3 attacks, leadership 8 and a save of 3+. Unit contains 3 Venatari Custodians. It can additionally contain up to 3 Venatari Custodians, a power rating of +3 per model. Every model is equipped with Kinetic Destroyer and Tarsus Buckler. The Kinetic Destroyer then, which I've equipped mine with, is a range 18-inch, pistol 2, strength 6, AP -2 and a damage 2 weapon, and when resolving an attack made with this weapon, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores and 1 additional hit. That's fantastic. You know, they've all got 2 shots there, you've got 6 shots in total at 18 inches, they've got an effective range there of 30 inches with those pistols. Amazing. The Tarsus Buckler is a melee weapon, and it's a strength +1, so they've now got strength 6, AP -2 and a damage of 1. That's alright. Clearly it's not as good as the Lance in close combat, but it's got another ability which we'll go through in a moment. You can equip them with the Venatari Lance, which for shooting is only a range 12-inch, but it is assault 2, strength 6, AP -2 and a damage of 2. So it's not as good as the Kinetic Destroyer, because of that reduced range and lack of an extra ability. However, it is better than the Buckler in combat because it adds +1 to the strength, which would be 6. The AP is now a better -3, and it's also a potential of damage of D3. Probability wise, you're most likely to get 2 or more damage. Wargear options. Any model can be equipped with 1 Venatari Lance instead of 1 Kinetic Destroyer and 1 Tarsus Buckler, and any model can additionally be equipped with 1 Misericordia. How they work is just the strength of the user, it's AP -2 and damage 1, and when the bearer fights it makes 1 additional attack with this weapon unless it has a storm shield. So you're getting an extra attack there, which at AP -2 is quite decent, but you're going to have to pay your 4 points for it. Abilities, Aegis of the Emperor, and then Tarsus Buckler. So this is what I mentioned earlier. When resolving an attack made with a weapon that has an armor penetration characteristic of -1 against a model equipped with a Tarsus Buckler, that weapon has an armor penetration characteristic of 0 for that attack. Now, it specifically says that. I don't know whether they forgot or they didn't think about adding the extra bit on the Horus heresy rules. I think this is on purpose. I think that they didn't add that to this because to add an extra little sentence or two is purely conjecture based on the fact that they've added it on the Horus heresy version but not on these. I think it is a purposeful omission. The way I read it and make sense of this rule is that if something has an armor penetration of -1, not -2 or -3 or anything like that, the characteristic goes to 0. So it's specifically against weapons that have -1, not weapons that have -2 and then it reduces it to -1. That's the Horus heresy rules, and they haven't put it on this one. And finally, the airborne hunters. During deployment, you can set up this unit high in the skies instead of setting it up on the battlefield. If you do, at the end of one of your movement phases, you can set up this unit anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from any enemy models. Fantastic, basically deep strike them. And then keywords: Imperium, Adeptus Custodes, Infantry, Fly, Jump Pack, and Venatari Custodians. So there you go, that's my full review of the Venatari Custodians. I think they are a lovely set of models, a lovely unit. I think their rules are pretty decent, especially those kinetic destroyers, and at a push you can put them in combat if you want to tie up a big unit. They've got 3 wounds each, so even with 3 of them, that's 6 wounds. I would just be wary from long range shooting attacks on them. Yes, they've got a toughness 5, but they only have a 3+ save. However, they do have that invulnerable 5+. But through weight of fire, you may see them being stripped of their wounds. With the kinetic destroyers, I would whiz them into within 18 inches of heavily armed infantry and let rip with those multi-shot pistols that have the potential of scoring additional hits. The AP -2 and damage 2 is quite nice. Then they can go into combat with the Tarsus Bucklers. I would say they're pretty good for medium to end game because they're very quick and they can go and capture those objectives. Maybe not hold them, but certainly wrestle them away from units and cause casualties on objectives. Anyway, what do you guys think of the models and the rules? Please do put it in the comments below. It'd be great to hear from you. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.